Hi, everyone. Welcome to our show today. My name is Tony, and you are on the Market Trade Show. Here on the show, we talk about parent entrepreneurs that are thriving in life right now. And I have great guests that come on to our show. Tonight, our episode tonight is going to be Constructing Your Wealth. And I have a great special guest. His name is Conroy Obey, and he is in the construction industry. And he's done so much amazing things over the years. Started from nothing, or literally stop and build something from nothing in constructing it. And it is going to be a great episode of how that is. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Mr. Conroy. Conroy, how are you doing tonight?
Doing well. Thank you, Tony. I'm really grateful to be on your show today. And so I've been following you for a while, and we've had some conversations. So I figured, or you figured, that we should do this show. And very excited to be here. So
I'm excited for you to be here, my friend. I'm excited. Like the conversation, the stories have it. It's great, and you help a lot of people. And then, like we've talked about before, you said you're actually going to be helping even more people because you started a nonprofit, correct?
yes, it's very important to me. So the thing is, when I first started a business, just like any business owner, it was my number one passion. I've built it to a certain point now. It still is my passion, but I also realized that at a certain age, I have other passions that I need to fulfill. So I figured, a nonprofit would be the best way to do that.
And can you go ahead and tell us about how you got into the construction field and your story of how you got to where you're at now? And what
Yeah,
gravitated to you construction?
it's a little bit long story, but yes, I can definitely tell you what it is. So I guess it began, like, for me, in terms of work ethic. I had a little bit of a dicey youth, I would say. And unfortunately, I bounced around from family to family, things like that. But I ended up living with one of my aunts and my uncles. And they actually, at 5 years old, had us doing a paper route. So me and my cousins, we would drag this wagon behind doing paper routes. So I started real young working. And I did that for a very long time. And as soon as I was able to get my SAN card, boom, started working. And so, it started early for me, that work ethic. And then, fast forward, I went to school for digital media art. It was a 1-year program. I graduated with 90%. And when I got out of school, they were offering $17 an hour to start at various companies. And I had a friend, he came to me and he said, "Hey, we're hiring construction for 21." And so, after a year of school, I had to chase the money. But during that time, when I took the digital media arts, I developed the company name and logos and websites and things like that. So I always had that in my back pocket. And so I started doing construction for about 10 years. And I started right from the bottom. I was the guy when they would say, "Okay, we have 6,000 pounds of tiles that need to go up 4 flights of stairs and needs to be put into different units." That would be me. I would be hauling up those stairs, mixing the mud, doing all the grunt work. And I ended up being a laborer for different jobs for about 3 years. And then I found a really good job. Same thing, I had started as a laborer, but I seen a lot of potential there. And so I let my drive, my natural drive, push me. I started right from the bottom. After like a year, I worked my way up a position, then kept working my way up. And one thing that separated me from the other people is how grateful I was. So for me, some people be complaining about, "Well, we got to do this today. We got to do that today." I was like, I'm just fortunate to have a good paying job. And so that allowed me to be very adaptive and learn different things in the trades. And eventually I just became the foreman. And from there, my employer, very good man, but he was kind of tight with the money. So I worked really, really hard. I basically ran the whole company for him. And I went to him one day and I said, "I appreciate this job, but I think I need one more dollar raise." And he said, "No, no, no, you get paid enough." So I said, "Okay, how about this? Instead of me making some sort of demand, I will prove to you in 30 days why I deserve one more dollar." So worked really hard. I pushed the crews. We really, really did a good job. Made sure the profit margins were higher than expected. And I went to him and he said, thank you. Then he said, you still don't get a raise. Yes. So
Ouch,
on that,
man.
yeah, on that weekend, I went home, I seen my wife and I told her about it. And we discussed starting a business. So we went and got a truck. And I pulled up on Monday morning and told him I resigned and now I want subcontracts. It was a whole crazy thing. He wasn't happy about it. You know, but at the end of the day, I told him I'm an honorable person. My intention is not to take your business. You know, I said, I don't want your throne. I want to build my own. And so he respected me and he gave me subcontracts. And that was the birth of Blue Nova Construction.
Bro, that is a freaking awesome story of that's literally the song of we're at the bottom, now we hear
Yeah.
type of song for sure. And
Yeah.
you know, you've been in construction for so long with all the different techniques and the new parts that are coming on. Where do you see yourself in the construction? Do you see yourself coming out of construction, or do you see yourself going with the newer techniques and like the new electronics? What do you think about that?
Well, one thing I learned about business from Digital Media Arts is they often talked about how businesses such as large corporations like FedEx, McDonald's, all these really large corporations, how every 4 years they change things up. They either change their menus, they change the look of their logos. They are really adaptive, you know? And, you know, our teacher there, he said, you know, when you start a business, you have to be willing to adapt. And so that's what we've done with Blue Nova. We're always adapting. Every 3-4 years, we're adapting. So things do change in the industry quite rapidly. But I keep my ear, you know, my ear to the streets. And whenever I see new technologies coming out, I realize if my company is one of the first people to get this new piece of equipment, and we go to meet a client, and they're like, "Ooh, what do you have here?" Something like a thermal imaging camera. So when they first came out, I think I paid $7,000 for my very first one, and $7,000 was a low-end model. And I went to see a realtor, and I showed up, and he looked at me, figured I was kind of young, and he's like, "What are you going to tell me that I don't already know?" And so I opened up my case, pulled out this very fancy piece of equipment, and then all of a sudden he gave me respect right away. He's like, "You're obviously a professional, you know what you're doing." And so my company is one of the first companies that we're really using thermal imaging, like on a day-to-day basis. And so that helped me to adapt, and that helped me to attract better clients. And so for me, I think where the future is going for construction is everything will be really technology based. You know, you really have to adapt. As new programs come out, CRM programs, different equipment, you have to be one of those people that purchase that equipment. Because your competitors, if they're bigger than you, they already have it, or they're thinking of getting it. And so you got to be one of the first ones. Hey, I got this new piece of equipment that does this specialized item, you know, so we can help repair your building better. And so really working with technology and just really listening to what the customers need and knowing what your competition is doing. If your competition is getting all this new technology and you're using stuff from 5-6 years ago, you're going to look like archaic, right? So.
Yes, you do not want to be a caveman. The new parts. I mean, even for the premise of where my business name became for Mark Your Trade is the trades have shifted throughout the courses of the years. So that makes so much logical sense that if that were to shift, that you would be changing with it, because if you don't adapt, you burn out. Your candle just goes out to the wayside. So that I love that response.
Oh, and I would like to apologize over the second part of your question. Where do I see myself in that future, right?
Yes.
So where I see myself in that future is we're going to adapt our industry. So right now, for instance, technology in terms of, you know, if they're going to have robots doing a lot of repairs in the future, it doesn't really affect the repair industry. So for us, we do a lot of repairs and renovations. So they're not going to have a specialized piece of equipment that's going to come in and do our job for us. But they are going to have different technologies. And so I need to start learning what those technologies will be. I need to look at the industry and see, should we start changing what kind of services we offer? For instance, green technology is a really big thing right now. 2 years ago, we talked to some clients about installing solar panels. Some of these clients were highly educated, they're electrical engineers. They're like, it's just not where it needs to be just yet, in terms of the cost savings for the client. And now there's a huge push for solar power. And so something like that, my company, we should be considering over the next 2 years, how are we going to get a piece of that market? We need to be really looking for the future. And so that's where we'll probably be doing some more commercial work and solar power, things like that. So.
Yeah, I believe that makes perfect sense too, because of the shifting industry. And then as in the news, everyone's talking about that part where it's global warming or climate changing, where we need to have that type of technology that's going to be clean and eco-friendly for the environment. That's going to, not cut down on emissions and cut down on stuff that's not going to affect our planet. So that's actually really smart.
Yes, thank you.
Now, to the parent side, you've been a parent entrepreneur for a long time as well too. What's one of your greatest struggles that you have had to overcome running a business and being a parent?
Let me see. So the first 4 years, just like majority of business owners, especially in construction, I just worked basically 16 hours a day. Weekends, days, just work. And at about year 5, went on a 10-day vacation with my family. It took me 5 days to unwind. I was wound up so tight, it took 5 days to relax. And I realized, what am I doing? I'm going so hard. Yes, I'm finding success and I'm making money, but my family's suffering from that. If you have a father who's so wound up where it takes him 5 days to unwind and really be there for your children, when you go on a vacation anyways, that's not a good sign. That's not a very good thing. And so that was one of the challenges that I faced was, overworking and learning how to take it easy so I could create that balance, give my children what they need, and also provide financially for them. And then the next struggle was as a business owner, as you get better and better at it every year, you start to think like a corporation. So at first you're like just a small guy, and you start learning, start learning. And then you start thinking like a corporation. It's a sad thing, but sometimes you start putting like numerical values on friendships and people in your life. Like when you're running a business, you have this employee and you're like, I've invested this much into this person. What is their numerical value? How much income can we make, and how can they help the company grow? Which of course they get raises and everything like that. But I had to learn to separate. When it came to my personal life, I had to separate, okay, these people at home and my friends and family in my life do not work for me. So I have to learn to turn that off. And so that was another one, learning how to create that separation.
Yeah, to find the balance in there instead of like, you're now my employees, my family. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, and I talked to many business owners. Some don't even realize that's going on. They start talking to their family like they're their employees, and they start treating their kids like they're employees, and don't even see it because they're like, hey, I'm ultra wealthy, I'm doing well, right? Just learning those balances and those kind of nuances to being a father and a business owner.
And when you were telling your story from the past of being you're a parent and then you're a business owner, but also you had before had spoken, you were a laborer and you're coming into, you decided you want to be a business owner. So with that being said, what was the pivoting shift that said, hey, I want to be a business owner instead of just laborer and run my own business?
Well, growing up with my type of lifestyle and the environments that I grew up in, unfortunately, there was a lot of people that told me I couldn't be something. You know, they had really low expectations for me. And I decided that I'm going to be whatever I want to be. So if I get something in my mind, even if you tell me, hey, that's not going to work, you're going to fail, I'm going to do it. I'm really driven like that and stubborn. So for me, you know, starting as a laborer, I understood that I'm going to have to work my way up. And once you get to being a foreman, what's the next step? You can be a general manager, I guess. You know, but even from there, where's the next step? So I just figured skip general manager and start my own thing.
So you actually saw the glass ceiling is what really went ahead and pivoted.
Yeah.
You figured out like, oh, okay, well, what's next? What's the new thing? Because we're creators, right? So you wanted to build
Yeah.
your full part. That makes complete sense. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of people, they still have the mentality, they don't mind like what you did. A lot of people don't realize is you did the impossible that some people just can't. Like they have the employee mentality, or that they, it's like, I'm making pretty good money, why would I want to run my own business if I'm making
Yeah.
good money anyways? It doesn't make much sense to me, you know. But you took that next step, that next level, so that is a huge feat.
Well, and one of the other things is I tell young entrepreneurs, the thing is when you're working for somebody, you don't actually have full control of your financial destiny, because that company at any point could go bankrupt. They could decide to lay you off. There could be a change in management. There can be a change in direction of the company. You don't have control over that. So when you run your own business, all of your successes is up to you. All of your failures are up to you. So, but you have control, you know? Like, so if you start a business and you want to be wealthy and you become wealthy, it's because you made those choices and you made those decisions and you got the education. You got people to help you get to those points. But if you're an individual employee, like, you know, there's always somebody else making decisions on your behalf.
That's right. You don't, it's like taking your, you don't want to be a passenger in your own car, pretty much driving it.
Yeah.
You want to take control of that sucker.
Yes, it's very important.
And when you're first starting out and you're going through that part transitioning, what would have you liked to know back then that you know now?
There's a lot. I think accounting was the biggest thing. So in the first 3 years, we decided to use really inexpensive accountants, you know, bottom dollar, and it cost us a lot of money in the back end, you know. And I often tell people, like, when you first start your company, get a good accountant, you know, because it really matters. When you come to the end of the year, you think that this inexpensive accountant is taking care of everything. You have the meeting and they're like, oh, yeah, we didn't run your remittance through for your payroll. You know, then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I got an $80,000 bill that I got to pay for remittance on employees. And they're like, oh, yeah, yeah, my bad. Oh, we also didn't do your GST and your WCB. It's like, oh.
That'd be
So
like
accounting is a big
instant,
one.
my heart, my heart.
Yes, yes, you know, yeah. So that's definitely one thing I would have liked to learn. And leadership skills. So the first 5 years, I was working in the field with the boys all the time. And so I was like that really hardcore general. You know, it's unfortunate and I'm not proud of it, but I used to say to the guys, like, we would work till 2 p.m. without taking lunch. And they say, why do we got to work till 2 p.m. before we take lunch? And I'd say, do you see me eating? Do you see me drinking water? Like, we stop when I stop. Kind of had that old school mentality, just workhorse. Just boom, we go, we go, we go. And unfortunately, what started happening is I started burning out my work. And I got Audible, this book called The Leadership Challenge. And it really changed my whole outlook on leadership. I wish I had that book when I first started, but unfortunately it wasn't until year 5 when I started to really look at my leadership skills and start adapting from that.
It's a great thing about being a parent and being a business owner, because then you have to be incredibly adaptable, because one kind of, would you agree that one kind of leads into the other as you go through, like your business will go into your parenting and vice versa?
It does, because when you're a business owner, sometimes you have staff that is, much younger, and they're looking for that adult mentorship. If you have a staff member who's like, say 18, 19, 20, right? And you come in as a 40-year-old and, you're leading them, sometimes you almost take on this little bit of a parenting role, which can be tricky because you only want to do that in a certain dose. You don't want it to become a father-son dynamic, right?
That's right.
Yeah, but it all really works together. So for me, if I didn't have my children, I don't know if I would have had that drive to succeed more and more and more. So every time we had a child, the company actually grew, because I was like, this is another child to feed and to care for. Now I must work harder. I must make sure to succeed. So we have 4 children, and each one of them made me a better businessman and a harder worker. So.
Speaking of all your kids, what would you have liked to know before having your first kiddo? And what you know now?
That's a curveball there, brother. You know what I would have liked to know? I would have liked to have a father figure tell me, look, it's not just about providing for your wife and your child. It's not just about, making sure you help with the homework and all these things. Being a husband and a father, it's a very big responsibility, and there's so many aspects to it. So when I was younger, I was told, like, okay, you're a good man, you work hard, you provide, and you always show your children love. The thing is, there's so much more to that. There's so many aspects of being a parent, and I think that fathers like me, I'll be telling my children that stuff. Like, having children and getting married is not just these 3 things and you think you're good. It's like a very, very large responsibility with many sections to look at and many things to consider.
It's like a book. It's like, there's this book and it's 300 pages long, but if you read it, you're going to be great on the other side. But you look at it face value, this is just a book, but in actuality, it's not. That's why I always recommend reading books, because you can condense 20, 30, 40, 50 years into that many time, and that saves you a lot of time and money, depending on what you take and execute it. So I definitely agree with you with that.
And mentorship, that's a big one. I believe that everybody needs mentorship. Whether you're a business owner or not, you need some sort of mentorship. Because in business, like, I'm sure you have a business mentor, right? I think you spoke about it.
Oh, yes. Yes.
It really helps to have somebody from the outside to kind of give you some pointers and to keep you in check. Like my business mentor, one of the best things he told me was don't build a big business for your ego. And I was like, well, what are you talking about? He's like, okay, you want to do 20 million in sales in the next 10 years, and you want to make this much money. Why do you want that? It's so everyone can say, oh, look how big your company is, or look how great Blue Nova is. And I was like, well, it's kind of a part of it. I was honest with him. And he said, don't do it. He said, do it for the right reason. If your ego is your number one reason to create massive wealth or to build something strong, he's like, he's like, it's not going to work, man. Because he himself built a company up to $20 million a year. They were doing quite well. And he said he just did it for the wrong reason. So.
Yeah, there's a book, if you ever get a chance to read as well, it's called Egopreneur to Ultrapreneur. And it's about a great guy. His wife is actually in finance as well, and he's in finance. He had his CMP for a very long time, sold it off, and very laid back guy. But he definitely is talking about how that's going to be looking for the future and what it took from going from point A to point Z as well. So that's a good book if you hadn't had a chance to read that.
I'll definitely, if they got it on Audible, I'll be listening to it.
And what other tips, because you just gave an awesome gem for other from having a mentor and having a coach, and a little bit in the same categories, but what two other tips can you give for people that might just be starting out, that what else would you have liked to have, like two other tips of either being a parent or being a business owner?
Okay, I give two for each. For being a parent, really learning to listen. Putting your own ego and I'm the most important and how I feel is the most important, learning to put that to the side for being a parent. And then understanding that you're a parent now. You can't give up. You have to keep going, whatever you're doing. You have to keep going. There is no giving up now because you have children that are depending on you. And for business, let me see. I got so many tips. I'm not sure.
So just your top two to go to.
Top two. When you go through hard times, acknowledge that these are hard times and look at how you're operating. Don't be afraid to look at yourself. Don't blame everyone on the outside. Look at how you're operating and what you can do to change things. And if you failed, just get back up. So many people, they lose $10,000 their first year. They just go running right back to their old job. Like, I can't handle this. And unfortunately, those people that do that, maybe they're not meant to be entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs such as ourselves, me and you, we take hits, we get back up, we keep going. And that's how it goes. So for a business, it's, when you take hits, financial hits especially, you got to adapt. Yes, you lost 10,000, 20,000, whatever it is. But okay, that happened. There's nothing you can do about that. But you can make sure the next 6 months or the next 2 years, you're going to make up for that money. You're going to grow, And number two would be really learn what true leadership is. You can be the iron fist type leader. It works, but not for very long. And you got to learn how to be a good leader. And you need to read some books on psychology. Because when dealing with clientele and dealing with staff, you have to understand psychology. It's very important. Because a part of our jobs as entrepreneurs is like, we have to know certain aspects of psychology. Not to manipulate the people that work for us or that we work for, but so that we can understand them. Once we understand them, we can better serve them.
Those are great tips. Super great tips. So those are you're watching the show right now. Typically, I would say comment live, comment replay. I'm pretty sure a lot of people you'll be watching the live and you'll be watching replay. But if you're watching this currently right now and you're getting so much value out of it, just comment below value, because I mean the stuff that we're going over in this podcast, it is great. Like Conroy's delivering a lot of value right now, and I hope you're paying attention and listening to everything that's going on now. A lot of stuff you talked about as well, Conroy, is a lot of people have these limiting beliefs. Which top 3 limiting beliefs that you have prior to becoming an entrepreneur, prior to becoming a parent, that you had to overcome to get to where you're at right now?
I'd like to start with an example. So I had a business friend of mine talking about they wanted to get into a different industry. And, they're talking about it and we're bouncing some ideas back and forth. And he says to me, he says, well, I'm not sure that the clientele that I'm going after would actually pay those kind of prices. And so I made a phone call to another friend doing the same type of industry. I said, hey, who's your main clientele and what are the prices? He tells me. And I go back to my friend and I say, look, it's the way you're looking at it. You're looking at your current clientele, what they're willing to spend. And that's how your limiting beliefs now are telling you that every client is going to be the same way. So if you want to go to this other kind of clientele, they're probably willing to pay. You just have to know what you're looking for. But once we get certain things in our minds, like, how do I put this? This is my environment, and this is the only environment that exists. That puts a glass ceiling, because you can only think within that box. But once you start to understand that there's many different environments and you can grow in each one of those, you have to learn, obviously. But you start to understand that you can be unstoppable. The only person stopping you from growing is yourself. Because if you can imagine, hey, I'm going to go start this other industry. You get into the industry, maybe that market crashes and you're like, oh, that's it, I'm done. I tried and I failed. No, you got to be like, oh, okay, well, this market isn't so great. Let me find this other one. Let me keep working. Let me keep adapting. And so those kind of things, believing that you can't adapt, that's a limiting belief. That's a problem. Second, not believing that you have the capability. We're capable of many great things. It takes hard work, yes. It takes education. We have to self-educate a lot of times. We have to have that belief in ourselves. But we are capable. With enough drive, capable of many things, especially in business. Because once we show that confidence and we're dealing with clientele or new potential clients or investors, when they see how passionate you are and how driven you are, a lot of times they're already sold. Of course, they want to see some paperwork, some numbers, but once you sell them on you, that's half the battle. Then you just got to keep it up. Like, you have to back it up. Once they give you that opportunity, you got to back it up. And so a lot of limiting belief, that we're not capable. And then another big one is, I don't know if everybody goes through this, but I've had my experiences going through it, that you don't deserve it. You don't deserve success. That's a big one. Some people may have been a certain kind of person 5-10 years ago, and guilt is running around in their mind. And they feel like, oh, I don't deserve happiness, or I don't deserve success. That's bullshit. We deserve it. Yes, we have to work hard for it, but we do deserve it. And it's when we get it, what do we do with it? That's another thing. Was that good?
Oh, that was That was fire. I want to see fire emojis underneath, or depending on if you're watching this on YouTube or wherever you're going to be watching this show, definitely comment below for that, because if you're dealing with this right now, you're definitely got to reach out to Conroy. I mean, Albert Einstein, he said a very similar part, like you were talking about. We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking or the mindset that we used when we created them. And that's really, really true. And you touch base on that aspect as well. And it's very true. It's very true. And Conroy, if I'm so glad that you were on the show today, and I would love to hear more. And I'm pretty sure all our audience will love to hear for you and how you got to that. But if they want to connect with you and they want to get into the construction industry, they want to construct their wealth, what are a couple of ways where they can go ahead and reach you at?
They can go to my website. So it's bluenovaconstruction.ca. We have a form there, contact form. They can send an email. They come directly to me or to my administration team. They can find me on Instagram under Conroy Obi. But on Instagram, that's really about my nonprofit stuff. But in terms of construction and business mentorship, they can just send me an email. And for me, I'm always willing to give advice. I think it's very important that we try to help people, and that's how we grow. And when we help somebody, they eventually turn around and help somebody else. So that's really important, keeping that kind of energy going in the world. So
yes, I do believe in good karma. You not
yeah.
agree? And vice versa too, depending. It's their compound thinking.
Yeah. Now, can I add one more thing?
Absolutely.
So for people that are just starting businesses or they're thinking of starting businesses, it's important to have a goal. A lot of people say, well, I want to make $10 million. Okay, that's fine. If you told me that, I'm not going to say you're being irrational or ridiculous. I'm going to believe you, because who am I to say that you can't do it? But then I want to hear some steps. So we have these kind of goals and you're a young entrepreneur. Okay, say where you want to go. And when you're talking with people, tell them the steps that you're going to take to get there, or the steps you're currently doing. This will help people to see you're serious. And this is how you're going to find a good mentor, because he's going to see that drive in you. Oh, you already got the steps in place. Well, let me help you out with some of those steps. And when you find a good mentor, appreciate them. Really, really appreciate them. Do what you can. A good mentor is always going to tell you, hey, I don't need all this from you. I'm just passing it forward. But show them that respect. So if they introduce you to people, make sure you keep their name good. So if your mentor has brought a client to you, you treat that client like gold, because your mentor has put his name up for you so that you can succeed. So you have a responsibility and obligation to do that. Okay, well, that's all I got to say. So
Well, I wish there was a crowd where I could hit the little button and go, ah. Like on those TikTok videos. Those are great. But yes, if you enjoyed the show for today and you want to connect with Conroy, definitely comment below, I want to connect, or reach out to Conroy for advice, mentorship, or anything like that. Definitely reach out to him. Conroy is a really great guy. And if you like this show, definitely comment value. My name is Tony Mizell, and we here on our show, we talk about how we help other parent entrepreneurs and how they can become successful as well in the fields that they're trying to do and market their trade. And as always, you'll be looking forward to a new episode, and keep on moving up with your intentions out. Always.
Can I do a plug for the Mark Your Trade show?
Sure. feel free, Conroy.
So I believe that Mark Your Trade show has really tapped into, a market that is in need right now. We're often working hard and we forget what it's like to be a parent and an entrepreneur. And so we need people like Tony Mizell, who's doing a lot of research. This guy reads a lot of books, seriously, and he's already, he's really deep into it. And so that shows me passion. And when I know a company owner has passion, it means that we're going to get that really good service. We just have to, really jump in, both feet in, right?
All in, stronger than yesterday. That's right.
Yeah. So I appreciate you, Tony. I really do. And I hope that we can work together in the future. So
Absolutely. And I'll be looking forward to it as well. And again, everyone is watching. Much love to you as well. And man, we'd love to see you again on the show again, Conroy. You'll be seeing more episodes here in the future. And that's all for our show tonight. Much love and appreciation to everyone out there. Y'all stay blessed.
thank you.